what is the best writing advice you've ever got and the worst one?
The best is write what you know. And the worst
Okay.
is also write what you know. Because it makes you
Okay.
vulnerable.
Okay, explain yourself now.
Yeah. So if you write what you know, then it comes easier usually because writing is so personal. And if you draw from experience, so I always put a lot of myself into my characters. There can be little quirks. So all my characters love coffee because I love coffee. And it's just a little, a little thing, but it gives them depth. But at the same time, if you put a lot of what you know and what you've experienced into your characters, you will feel vulnerable and you will feel attacked when they are attacked. Put a bit of yourself, but don't write a self-insert.
Welcome to Raising Baby Authors. I'm Kasia, your host and a brand new writer. If you feel overwhelmed and lost about this whole writing thing, you're certainly not alone. Join me while I pester my author guests for writing advice and find out how they do it. Because if they could, then why not you? It truly takes a village to raise an author, so let me share my village with you. Hello, dear listener, and welcome back to the classroom. Thank you so much for giving me your time and attention. And let's meet today's mentor. It's Rhea Fox. Rhea writes monster romance full of weird, flawed characters that still deserve all the love of Sugar and Spice with neurodivergent or mental health rep, because she enjoys reading and writing about people who are as weird as her, and guaranteed happily ever afters. Together with her husband, 2 kids, and a dog named Hamlet, she lives on the market square of an old village in the north of Bavaria. Growing up, Rhea came to love lores, mythical creatures, and fairy tales that fascinate her to this day. Oh, that's amazing. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for
excited.
agreeing to talk to me. I'm super excited as well.
Sure.
Well, let's start with the beginning. So, how did you start your journey? How did you start writing? Why did you start writing? All the philosophical stuff.
So I started writing at like 6 years old. So I always wanted to be a writer and I always loved storytelling. But I kind of convinced myself that I wasn't creative enough to write a book. Like, writing an entire story and finishing something is really hard for me. Like, finishing something is really hard for me with ADHD. So I never thought I could. But I also couldn't stop writing or couldn't not write. So I woke up one day and I realized I had half a year until my 36th birthday. And I thought, wow, okay, in 4 years, you're going to be 40. And for me, that was always sort of this big milestone, like 40 years old. That is huge. And I thought, okay, if you want to do this, if you want to give this a shot, why not do these 4 years before you turn 40? And give it your all and try your luck, and try telling these stories that won't leave you alone, because that is what I write. I have all these I call them my brain babes. Like, I have them in my brain and they want out and they're driving me crazy. So that is why I'm telling their stories and that is why I'm here and why I do this now.
Okay, so in terms of your goal and the timeline, where are you now in this journey? Like, you were 36 when you realized it?
I'm 37
right.
now. So just a month ago,
So
I turned 37.
Oh, happy birthday. So
thank you.
So then you decided to do that like a year ago, and it's been only a year, and you've already released how many? Oh my God, there's like
7
1, 2, 3.
books.
Wow.
7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went full steam.
Yes. Yeah. And then I ran out of steam and I had a little burnout, which is why I'm taking the summer off. But yeah, so I started my author account in, I think, October or November of 2022. And then I published my first book on my birthday at the end of June 23. exactly 4 years before I turned 40, I had my first book out, Main of My Existence, and then I just went from there.
All right, but it went already so far. So like you only had 1 year, and I think, are you feeling that you can still do this for the next 4 years and 10 years and whatever else you want to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I need to pace myself a bit. My goal was to build a backlog really quickly. Because I always love it when I find an author, and I have like a lot of their stuff to binge. And I kind of wanted that for my readers. Like, I wanted them to find me through a book and then discover, oh my God, she has so much more stuff out. And I'll just go on a binge read. That was my dream. And I occasionally get that where people are like, oh, I binged all your books in a week. And that is just my ultimate goal. Um, check.
Yeah, and that's actually, I mean, I don't know how you came to this decision. Is it just like your feeling that you wanted people to read your books? But this is the advice that I hear a lot as well. You need to write and write and release and release and release. And at some point, you'll have a backlist that people can just rely on when they read one book. So yeah, that's I think what
Yeah.
happened with me when I started reading romance. I think very unsurprisingly started with Julia Quinn and with the Bridgerton series, and I literally read her whole backlist after that. So yeah, it's a very good strategy.
Yeah. So I think it was kind of a bit of both. Like, I had this idea and then I realized, oh, this is something you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's good when you understand when the strategies and the methods they actually make sense to you. You're like, yeah, I know I should do it like that
Yeah.
because it's going to help me.
I spent a lot of time, like, I was a blogger before. I blogged in
Hmm.
German and I released non-fiction books in German before that. And it's completely different. Like, it has nothing to do with each other because you market it completely differently. And like, as personal as nonfiction can get, my brain babes still feel more personal. So people are always like, oh my God, you wrote nonfiction. That is so wild. And I'm like, yeah, no, but what I'm doing right now is way more intimate because it's literally like the people I make up. Um, and I just completely lost my train of thought. Oh no, I know where I came from. That I always saw these Oprah Winfrey started at X years old and whoever wrote their first book at 50. I had this idea that I needed to get a few books out until I had my breakthrough. But you know these things that they tell you that your eighth book is your most popular and your most successful. Like, you
Eight.
write and you write and you write, and then I think it's between 5 and 8 is usually the number for most authors, where they kind of have attraction and then have their breakthrough. Take Rebecca Yarros, for example, with Iron Flame. Or Fourth Wing
Hmm.
was the first one. I think that was her seventh or eighth book, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure,
And
but
now
okay.
she has this massive success, but it's been a long time coming, and I kind of wanted to get a head start on that and kind of wanted to fail forward, um, just to get this out of the way and
It makes sense completely. Yeah.
learn on the both.
So yeah, you said you already have 7 or 8 books out. So very,
Yeah, my
very
eighth.
soon we're going to see your big break.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, it's going fairly well. So I had these goals that you learn, to set as a blogger. You have these income goals that you want to reach, and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna do this for me as an author as well. And I had a goal to have steady 500 euro months at the end of this year, and then four figures at the end of the next. And I surpassed this goal already. So I'm having constant four-figure months. So I think I'm on the right track. And
That's amazing.
yeah, that's That was unexpected, I'm not gonna lie. Uh, but it's going super well, and I have amazing readers who keep talking about my books. And
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. All right. So, you mentioned, so you started with the nonfiction before. What were they about, the nonfiction ones?
The first one was about minimalism and kind of sort of self-love and um taking control of your own life. So it's like decluttering your life in 23 days, basically. And then
All right.
I wrote and because I was battling with depression, and I discovered minimalism back then. And that helped me, and I wanted to have that accessible for other people. And I also started a personal finance blog, so I have another book that is called How to Become a Virtual Assistant, which I taught in a course. Like, I made an online course and I taught other people, and also had a book. And the other one was 99 Ideas for Your Side Hustle. So that was kind of the beginning of the side hustle, personal finance bubble when I wrote those. And they still make me money, which is amazing. It's not a
Yeah,
lot, but
that's
it's
great.
still, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds
Which is the
fascinating.
lovely thing about having books. So they don't exist just on release day. They can make you money for years, which is
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's also something that attracts me to this kind of work as well. Okay, so let's get back to the monster romance. I didn't ask you the main question. Why did you choose monster romance, or did it choose you, or how did this happen?
Kind of a bit of both, I think. I have that in my bio, that I was always a very child with a rich imagination. Everything around me seemed so magical growing up. Like, there were all these, old forests and the little roots and the moss and everything, and that looked always so magical to me. So I had very little problem, imagining all these fantastic things. And I remember vividly discovering Greek mythology. Like, that was kind of the breakthrough, because I was hooked, and I read all the lore I could get my hands on. I still do that. Grimm's fairy tales. I grew up with those, of course, and we had that old, leather bound book from my grandmother, and my dad would read those to us, and I just fell in love with it. And then a friend of mine, she recommended Orc Romance to me, and then Morning Glory Milking Farm and Finlay Fenn's The Lady and the Orc were the first two monster romances I read. And I realized, okay, this is what my stories are missing, because I'd been writing contemporary until then, and they were just so flat and boring to me. And then I found these monsters, and I was mind blown. And I remember posting a story. I think it's still in one of my highlights, that I've decided to write monster romance exclusively, because it's where I feel home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Full
expecting an
circle.
answer like this actually. Yeah, because you start with something that you know, but you don't know all the genres that are available, and when you finally find something that you really, really like, this is where it clicks. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I actually had a question from my follower. Her name is Giselle, and she wanted to ask you, what is the hardest part about writing monster romance?
Okay, the way I have an answer to that, and that is probably not what she expects. So Giselle, for me, the hardest thing is to come up with a fancy, unique peen for the monster.
Oh, I love that.
It's not uncommon in monster romance, but it's not super usual, I think. Is that in my world there is no us and them, so humans versus monsters, but they've been living and coexisting for centuries peacefully. So there is the mention of like a human magic piece track, but it's more like a pro forma thing that they just put down on paper, the way you do put those things down on paper. But it's a very peaceful world. There's still conflicts, but they're mostly between different species, but not human versus monsters, or where the monsters are subjects of horrific tests or torture. So I try to treat them just like regular people and make them quirky and relatable. Yeah. So there's not a lot of, weird dynamics. It's just, they're just regular people in my world who need a fancy peen. And
Yeah, so you
that is
come up
sometimes
with
difficult.
those you come up with those yourself, right? It's not like you can find a book where it will be described or something in the myths, and like they don't say such things.
No, they don't. What is super helpful is so I have a very, very lewd Twitter or X feed. And artists are amazing at inspiring us. Or adult toys. So there are lots of like creature and monster toys out there, and sometimes it kind of helps to look at those.
Yeah, I have a story about that. I was at the Rare conference and there was Regine Abel there. I think that's how her name is pronounced. I haven't read her before ever, so I just came to the table to talk because she had a lot of different merch and I was interested. And they asked me if I want to play a game. So they gave me this card, and on the card there are 6 different alien peens and 6 different aliens, and I was supposed to sort of match the person to to unfortunately, I did not guess even one. Like my intuition was completely wrong, completely. They gave me like a consolation prize or something. I didn't win anything, but like, yeah, my logic doesn't work there, unfortunately.
I absolutely adore her books, by the way.
Yeah?
They came right after. And ever since then I've wanted to write a Naga because I love her I Married a Naga book. That is so good. That is so hot. Oh my god. That is something else. So if you haven't read that, I can highly recommend it.
Oh, I thought I will never read monster romance, but yeah, here I am. I've read, I think, multiple at this point, including yours and Eva Chase and some others as well. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, actually. Well, let's dig into writing. How does your first draft look like, for example? How much time does it take you to write a first draft? Well, how does it look like besides not pretty, as everyone knows?
So I try to have a messy first draft, but I also have autism, so I kind of edit on the go. Yeah, so I always underwrite. I kind of add about 5 to 7K in editing, but I always edit on the go as well. So I kind of fix these things because whatever I spot then and I fix won't end up in the book. So I kind of fix those then. And I am I would say more a pantser. So I don't plan a lot. I just write. I start at some point in the middle, usually with a spicy scene or kind of a key scene that comes to my head, and then I build the book around it. So I kind of drop into the story, and then I need to figure out how do they end up there. It's a bit of a maze, and I just have to find my way to the beginning. How did we end up in this situation? So, yeah, and how long does it take me? That depends on how intense my hyperfocus is and on how much time I have. I've written books in 3 weeks or less, 13 days or so. Oh, 10 days. No, Course a Dragon I scraped and then rewrote basically from scratch in 10 days. So I would say about 10 days per 25,000 words. give or take. So that'd
Okay.
be like 2 months for a novel, rough.
And that's just the first draft, or like you're counting the editing and the like those
Nah, that's
stages?
just the just the first draft. Because at some point I will drop out of the story and then I'll write something else and I come back and then I need to force myself to sit back down and finish it. So it kind of stretches over, I would say.
Right. So,
Yeah.
since I'm following you on Instagram, I'm seeing that you are probably working on several projects at the same time, right? So, like some things on Patreon, some things you're releasing like wide and stuff like this. So this is the way you're comfortable working. Right? So multiple projects at once. This is how your
Yeah.
brain kind of.
Yes. So I can't, for the life of me, work on just one project. That is torture for me, okay? So when I wrote Corset Dragon, I kind of started that. I did a prompt project in at the beginning of 23. And I found 365 writing prompts, and the goal was to write 500 words for every prompt on every day of the year, in addition to releasing 3 novels, which obviously didn't work. But I started writing these these little scenes, and I kind of tried to fit them into the final book. So I started writing Taryn and Maeve's story, and then I ended up with a book that I did not want to publish. Like, it was basically done, but it didn't feel like a Rhea Fox book. So I started again, but I had an editing slot booked. So I had 10 days, and I needed to finish this book, get it to my editor within 10 days. So I got 13 in the end. I got a little extension, but that was horrible. And for me, it's best if I have like 2 or 3 projects I can work on at the same time, because I then jump and it's enough stimulation for my brain so I don't get bored and I don't drop out, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, it does make sense to me. I don't think I would be able to work like that, but again, we're different people, so totally. When I'm working on two projects at the same time, I constantly feel guilty for not working on the other one when I'm working on the first one. I don't know why. I
Mm,
feel like I need to focus on one thing, but eventually, I don't know how it's gonna work out. I haven't released anything yet, so we'll see. And you think this is something that's related to your like ADHD?
yeah.
So this is something that a lot of people with ADHD are going to, their process is going to look like this probably.
I don't know. I don't know really. So I know there are quite a few people who have a lot of work in progresses. Carlotta Hughes comes to mind. We just had that or the talk the other day, that we both have an insane amount of whips. Like, I have like 90 books in my
Wait, was that
backlog.
90 or 19?
90.
You're
Close to
kidding me. Oh
100.
my God.
No, I'm
Wow.
not. The last time I counted, it was 85, but since then I added 3 or 4 books to Fangs on Ice, and yeah.
So you can
Um,
just
it's just
pluck a book at some point, like every week you can pluck a book from your WIPs and just like release another one. Wow.
yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
I calculated it months ago. I was at like 50 or so back then. How long it would take me to release every single one of my stories if I released a book every 3 months. And that was so frustrating that I kind of started to work on 6 or 7 books at the same time, which did not work. But I was desperate, like 10 years? Gotta be kidding me. I can't wait that long. So yeah, I'm really curious how it's gonna be when I do this full time. If I'll get more done and the book's out quicker, or
Mm.
just finished quicker,
Mm-hmm.
even if I'm not releasing them.
So now you don't do this full time, which means well, I know you have a kid and I guess you have a job as
Two
well.
kids.
So two kids, sorry.
I have 2 small kids. That's all right. I have 2 small kids. I have a part-time job
Mm-hmm.
I have parents that need care. I have the disability, so I kind of, yeah, no wonder I have a burnout.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it is super impressive that you are even finding time to write and to release and to market and to do all those things with everything else that you have going on. That's amazing. So you were mentioning that you need to provide your drafts to your editor. So what is your process there? So do you have beta readers or you just have an editor?
I had a pretty weird situation with a beta reader for Men of My Existence, and ever since then I haven't had any because that was really like it was ableist. It was really bad. Got amazing feedback from the others, but that and Elora, her traits are based on me, so that hurt really badly. And I was this close to just scraping it and, say fuck it and not release and not publish. So I haven't had any betas. I'm gonna start having betas again for You Got the Love, so the Bear Shifter book, because I can't really, I need a few more eyes on it. But apart from that, yeah, I dabble in it and then I give it to my editor. So I go through at least 4 rounds of self edits. So I have my draft, my first draft, and then I do 4 rounds of self edits and kind of read throughs or read it out loud to myself, just to get a feeling for the sentences, for the structure. Because sometimes, I write when I'm tired and I'm not a native speaker, so weird stuff happens. And I try to catch as much as I can. And then I hand it into my editor and we go through 2 rounds of edits. And then I have a proofreader.
I've listened to lots of authors like on different podcasts, and yeah, I mean, this is some of them have beta readers, some of them don't. It's really up to you, and I guess it's a really important job. It's important that you find the right people to do it for you. So yeah, it's not surprising that
Yeah.
someone would not be fitting.
I think trusting someone with what is essentially a part of your soul is really difficult. And like when you have normal readers, you have that like the divide. You don't ask for their feedback, and ideally you don't get it. And if you want it, then you can seek it out, yes. But readers review for readers, not for me. Betas review for me. And that kind of feels, because I have RSD, like rejection sensitive dysphoria, which makes it really hard to deal with feedback, with critique, can feel painful to me, like physically painful to me. It can throw me out of my routine for days, if not weeks. I've cried. I've had meltdowns because I was tagged in bad reviews or whatever. So actively seeking that out kind of needs me in a mental space where I can deal with it and people I can trust with. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever works for you.
Yeah.
If you trust your editor and the person works for you for a while, they can also become sort of a beta reader for you, pointing out some issues and doing it in a compassionate manner, at least. You mentioned a couple of authors that you like and that kind of got you into monster romance, but uh, just maybe do you have any like author heroes or mentors that someone you consider um, someone to learn from who you want to not imitate, but like sort of, I want to
Mm.
be like them?
So my first role model as an author and the person who made me want to pursue this was Cornelia Funke. She's this famous German author. She writes kids literature and young adult. Inkheart, for example, I don't know if you've heard of that. That was a film based on her book. And I read her books when I was a child, and she illustrates her books like she's an illustrator first, and then she or she became an author. Pan's Labyrinth. She wrote the book to
Ah,
Pan's Labyrinth.
okay. I have not
Um,
seen it. I really want to
mm,
watch the movie, but yeah, haven't seen it
oh,
yet. Keep
it's so
forgetting.
good. It's so fucking good. So yeah, so Cornelia Funke is one of my most, like my biggest inspirations. I honestly don't have a lot. Like Regine Abel, she's one of my, I would say one of my heroines in monster romance. I just like what she does. I try to kind of find my own way, so I don't aspire to be like someone else. So Cornelia Funke, I just wanted to be an author. Like I wanted to write fantastic stories that kind of drag people into my world and make them forget everything around them. And I think I'm on the way, but I'm sorry. I don't I have a lot of
No,
colleagues I cherish. I don't have anyone where I'm like, oh, I want to be like them. Um,
yeah, you
so
want to do your own thing, and that's
yeah,
totally fine. I think for a lot of people, just having these kinds of authors, like someone you want to not imitate, but just like sort of, I want to be like them, comes from,
yeah,
well, I'm not sure who I am anymore, so maybe like
yeah,
I want to be like them. So once you find your own voice, I'm guessing it's getting
yeah.
easier, I hope.
I think so, yeah. So for me it was trusting myself enough. So I'm 37, right? I'm going on 40 and I don't have a lot of fucks to give anymore. Just to be honest. I can't mask anymore. I don't want to. I don't want to be someone else. I want to be myself. I spent so many years trying to be someone else and trying to fit in, and I've kind of carved out my own space in Monster Fucker City. Like I always say, I own real estate, on Horny Road in Monster Fucker City, and this is just my own space, and um, like if people want to drop in, it's great. I love it. But this is my circus and my monkeys. I've kind of given up trying to make people like me, or to play roles, or to cosplay as someone else, because I don't have any energy for that anymore.
I wanted to just praise something that is the bane of all of our existence for writers is imposter syndrome. Is that
Oh,
something that, yeah, I feel like, yeah, as much as everybody's confident, it can affect
yeah.
everyone in any case.
Yes.
Do you have any advice or anything that helps you to actually like put your butt in the chair and start writing, even if you're feeling like that?
Mm. So I sometimes get that on Instagram. It's getting better. I think for me, imposter wasn't exactly imposter, but it was more like a yes, I am happy for them, but I want a bit of that too, you know? And that makes you feel like shit because you know how hard your colleagues work and you know that they are too, like, doing the hard thing, and they're putting themselves out and they keep getting up. They get knocked down, you get up again. They're doing this and they deserve the world, they deserve everything, but you want a bit of it too. And that was my struggle, like feeling happy for them, celebrating them, but at the same time being sad and upset that it wasn't me. It's not that you
Definitely.
you don't you're not happy for them. It's just that you just want a bit of the cake too. It's like at the birthday party when everybody eats cake and you can't have any, and you just want a slice too. And it's getting better. And what really helps me is to mute the people that make me feel like that, because it's a me problem, it's not a them problem. And I don't want to see their stuff and feel like shit for being upset about it. I just want them to be able to celebrate. So I kind of take myself out of that space and get myself back on track, if that makes sense. So muting them if you have to unfollow, it's sad, but I understand. So if anyone, feels like crap when they see my success, please unfollow me. I had that recently with someone who felt like that about me. And I'm a teeny tiny small fish in terms of the big players in our niche. But I get it. And they took themselves out of my space, and I realized that I'd been kind of keeping myself contained, not to upset them, and I couldn't do it anymore. Like, I wanted to celebrate my success with my readers, my followers. So yeah, take yourself out of that space if you need to. Work on your own grasp. Because we don't see the hustle of the other authors. We don't see what they do. We don't see what they sacrifice. We only see the result. It's easy, to think, oh, they don't deserve that. Which I don't think, but some people I know think that. They don't deserve that. Why? I should be successful, not them. But you don't see their hustle. You only see their step 500. You don't see the 499 steps they took before that. So it's kind of stay in your lane, work on your own grasp, stay out of your reviews. By God, don't read your reviews, please. And just keep doing the hard thing and don't give up too soon, which is a problem, especially in terms of marketing, that people give up too soon. And then it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because they've done everything, but they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Which is harsh. I know. But that's it. Like, most businesses, and being an author is a business as well, fail because people give up too soon. Like, success looks like this, and then suddenly, it goes up like exponentially. But getting over the parallel line, that it is in the beginning, until you reach that point where it goes up, that takes a lot of energy and a lot of grit and a lot of bite. So you kind of have to stay on track, keep showing up, no matter how much it feels like you're screaming into a void.
Yeah, you actually seamlessly went into the question that I wanted to talk to you about. You now have a marketing business also, besides being an author.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
can you tell
do.
me how that started and what do you offer?
So thank you for mentioning that. So I mentioned before that I was a blogger, and you can't really blog without finding your footing in online marketing. So that started back in 2015. I started to work for bloggers, travel bloggers mainly, and I kind of learned the ropes. I did social media management for them, a kind of content planning, content scheduling, batch creating, writing captions, whatnot. And then I did some coaching for people who wanted to improve their writing. I coached them because they like my style of writing. I have a fairly poetic style in German, and they like that. I kind of learned a lot. Like, I love learning, and my brain is really fast, so I kind of, took all this information in like a sponge. And then I stopped doing this when I had my kids, but it obviously was useful for me as an author as well, as an indie author. And I also mentioned before that it's a piece of our soul that we try to market, which makes it completely different from writing a blog post, about 10 tips how to save money on groceries. Is completely different to, hello, this ADHD character is based on me. Enjoy. And then, talk shit about the book in your review. Like, it's completely different. And what I noticed, like, I follow quite a few people who offer marketing advice for authors, but a lot of them aren't authors. And I'm not saying that you can't give advice to authors if you yourself aren't an author. You can. But there will always be a divide because you haven't done the thing. I started seeing these things, you know, you notice when you know how social media marketing works and you hear that people complain about low sales or that something is failing, and then you look at their accounts, because I'm curious. You look at their accounts and you see that, for example, they in their captions they have the book is available now. Okay.
Where?
Or this is the cover. Okay. What am I supposed to do with it? And then I started to give advice, and then colleagues got in touch with me and they said, "Oh, I really like that you give this advice and it's super helpful and please keep doing this." Then I somehow had the idea to offer marketing calls for authors where I evaluate their social media account, especially Instagram, their website, and then we kind of talk about where to go from there and the improvements they can make. And I'm currently working on condensing all that knowledge into a course, because I don't have the time to do all these calls, and I want to be
Makes sense.
writing. I'm kind of putting all that into a self-study course. It's not the same as a call because I will focus on your account and not Instagram accounts in general, but I think it's the next best thing that I can offer, because I am there and I'm doing this thing, and I have like I always like A/B test strategies. Like I hear strategies on a marketer's account, and I kind of test drive them if they work for us too. Because when you're on the outside, you can share all the theoretical knowledge in the world, and it's still theoretical because you've never applied that to your own book. And I kind of wanted to share that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant, actually. I mean, of course, I think everybody would just love to have a call with you and have you look at their strategy. But you're one person, you cannot handle everybody. And that, yeah, the
Yeah.
course, you're right. It's the next best thing, especially if you consolidate all the knowledge that you have gathered from the years of you doing this. Of course, I
Yeah.
think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And you are right. I see this with the marketing specialist and with writing coaches, is that maybe they used to write, but then the other business became more profitable, and basically they've been doing this for 10 years and they're not writing anymore, which, I mean, they have some experience, but that's why one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast, because I want the writers to hear from other writers who are actually actively writing and publishing, and give the
Yeah.
tips that work for them.
And people can be very empathetic and they can kind of give good advice. So I follow these people too, and I get amazing advice from them. But not all is applicable to me, and it's just generic. It's not tailored to, like, it's different if you're writing a blog or if you're writing a book, and if you market that. And you cannot use the same strategies. And in all fairness, most authors don't want to be marketing their books, they want to be writing. I always call myself a lazy marketer, but the other day a colleague said that I was just efficient. So I try to use all these hacks that I have, like batch creating content with the same templates over and over again, or having my captions in a note that I can just copy paste and I add a bit of fresh content. Like just these little things that make it easier for me to create my content in a very short amount of time. I'm still regularly showing up in my readers' feed. I use ads, which was a huge game changer for my business. So I can keep writing, because I don't want that to take over. As much as I love it and as much fun as it's been to sit, together with an author and just chat and give them ideas and tips, and that's been super amazing, and I love that, and I'm already invested in their stuff, right? So I kind of I fall in love with every colleague I talk to in these calls, and it's just so great when you see them use the tips that you give, and that's so good. Yes.
Yeah, I think as soon as it's time to market whatever I want to publish, I'm gonna be your client for sure, because I see that you are providing, you said lazy and efficient, as if those two things are mutually exclusive. They're actually really helping each other. If you're lazy, you will always find a way to make things in the
Yeah.
shortest amount of time and to make
Yeah.
them bring you the most reward. So yeah, I hate making reels. This is like, it's the worst. I'm doing these tiny little 20 seconds things and they take me an hour to make. I really do not like that, but I'm getting used to it. It's gonna get easier, it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I also do not want to market anything, but as long as you have to, you do need to find the easiest and the most
Yeah.
lazy way to do it.
Yeah. And the thing is, that's what I always tell my colleagues, is that nobody knows our stories the way we do. So there's no one as invested in them, and there is no one who wants us to succeed as much as we do. We want to get them read. We want new readers. We want you follow. I personally, I love every single follower, but I don't optimize for followers. I optimize for sales and page reads. So I realized that it's the same things over and over again that we struggle with. A lot of us struggle with. And a huge following often looks great, but a huge following is not going to pay your bills. Page reads and sales are. And ultimately, we want the books read. We don't want a nice number. Like, everybody of us wants the nice number on social media, but it's the other day I saw a thread by an author who had like 26,000 followers, and she had a 0 page read and sale day on KDP. And with 26,000, you'd think, oh, she's living off her writing. Clearly. Why wouldn't she? She has 26,000 followers, but they're not necessarily readers. So that's kind of something to. And for the reels, I shared, I don't know if you follow me. I think you do.
I do.
I shared a little hack for reels the other day. We'll do more.
I see all your posts. I see all your posts. I maybe I've missed one. I don't know. I will check back on your reels, of course. And you mentioned that you use ads as well. So you mean like paid ads on social media or on Amazon?
No, on Facebook. So Facebook and through Meta's.
I've heard somewhere
ads
that
manager.
Facebook ads are way better than Amazon ads. So like if you do Facebook, it's more profitable. Yeah.
Yeah. So my husband looked into Amazon ads, and it said that you can't have adult content, and we weren't sure if my books, because they're 18 plus, count as adult content. I don't think they do. But it's much harder to optimize, and I found this course a few months ago, and I wanted to know how to find my target audience on Instagram, because I had no idea. And if you don't know how to target, you're just burning money. So I got this course, and I only looked at the Instagram part, because that was all I needed. Like, it's a Facebook and Instagram ads course, and I only looked at the Instagram part. I started with like $2 or $3 a day, or €2 or so a day. And I had pretty good success. Like, I can see when I have the ads on. Like, it's visible. And the other day I thought, oh, I should check out Facebook, and I was able to get my cost per click down from like 11 cents, which I thought was really good, to 5 cents. So for my ads budget, I can reach more than twice as many people. And yeah, this month was amazing. So everybody was talking about how shitty their sales were in July. And here I was, and I frequently had these days where I had to turn off my ads because they were performing too well and my ads budget was running out too early.
Oh,
So
that's a nice problem
yeah.
to have.
Yeah, that was, and my husband, he came upstairs and he was like, "We had another invoice from Meta just now," and I thought, "But it's only €3 a day. I'm sorry. That shouldn't be like €50 in 3 days. It doesn't make any sense." But too
Whoa.
many people clicked, so they show it to say 1,000 people, and they expect 5 of them to click. But if 50 of them click, your budget runs out fairly soon, right? And you pay a lot of money because you pay per click.
Oh, that's
So
how it
yeah.
works.
Yeah. I only
Okay.
understood that a few weeks ago or so. You say you want to spend €3 a day. And they show your ad to 1,000 people, expecting a few of them to click, and they expect as many clicks as you get for €3. But you pay per click. So if of the 1,000, half of them click, then you pay for every single click, and you pay a lot more money. So this is why you
Okay.
need to optimize, and you need to stay in the game, and you need to always be aware of how much you're spending. So it's not that easy, but it's doable. And it's definitely something I always recommend, because a lot of big authors have an
That's true. Yeah.
ads budget, a marketing budget. Yeah.
Yeah, I see those on Facebook. I'm not often on Facebook, but I see those ads often from different authors. Yeah. So I have at the end this section where basically it's just like a standard questions. What is the best writing advice you've ever got and the worst one, or whichever one of them?
The best is write what you know, and the
Okay.
worst is also write what you know, because it makes you
Okay.
vulnerable.
Okay, explain yourself now.
Yeah. So if you write what you know, then it comes easier usually, because writing is so personal, and if you draw from experience, so I always put a lot of myself into my characters. There can be little quirks. So all my characters love coffee because I love coffee, and it's just a little, a little thing, but it gives them depth. So I love that. But at the same time, if you put a lot of what you know and what you've experienced into your characters, you will feel vulnerable, and you will feel attacked when they are attacked. Yeah. Put a bit of yourself, but don't write a self-insert. A lot of people write like complete self-inserts, and then when people say, "Oh, I don't like this character," they feel personally attacked because it's them, really. So
No.
I wouldn't, put myself into my stories. So
Yeah.
I think,
Unless you want to hear people's opinion about you directly.
yeah, especially when you're working through your trauma, that can be really, really difficult to read bad reviews, or that is a really shitty FMC. You're like, she's me, thank you. Like,
Thanks a lot.
for example, with that ableist beta reader, and I'm sure she didn't mean to be like that. I hope so. I want to believe in the good in people. But she suggested that Elora, my character, for her to do these really weird things to make her more likable, but kind of to gloss over her ADHD traits. They're also sometimes traits. The traits, like she should fundraise for a cancerous child so people would see that she has empathy. And I was like, what? We don't need a redemption arc just for being disabled. Like, I don't need to say to raise money for a cancerous child. in order for people to see that I'm actually human. And I was really offended by that. And ever since then, I've kind of dialed down how much of myself I put into my characters. So
it's really brave to put your trauma on a page, and yeah, I can understand. It's
put it out for the
something
world to read. Yeah.
It's something that we eventually will do, but it requires a lot of courage. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say to yourself before you started this writing journey? What do you think you could have either changed or just given yourself an advice from the point that you are at now?
Oh yeah. I have that. I would tell myself to only set release dates for books that are ready, and to give myself more time than I think I need for the books, or to finish the books. So I set the release dates on Amazon and without having anything written for the books. And then I had to scramble, and then life happened, and it was really stressful. And that is kind of the thing I'm changing for the future. It always needs more time than you think it does. Set the date when the book is ready. So I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't done that, in all fairness. But it wasn't an experience I would like to repeat.
Yeah. If you've done it, doesn't mean that it was the right way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And 2 more things. Don't read your reviews ever. And set boundaries from the start. Because people will come into your space and they will shit on your floor. And you need to have you need to have firm boundaries in place, because people think they know you and they think you're their friend, because like obviously you like it when someone slides into your DMs. That's lovely. I love talking to my readers, to my followers, to colleagues, but sometimes people overstep boundaries, like trauma dump. Or I've recently had someone send me a ableist slur that they've been called, but that felt really bad, made me feel really bad. So it was a really offensive word for someone who's disabled, and to hear that as someone who's disabled, that wasn't great. So I kind of had to delete that chat, and it's gone, because no, that's not working. So I have boundaries and don't read the reviews.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, I see it everywhere. Don't read your own reviews. I feel like I'm still gonna try to do that in the beginning, and then eventually I will learn on my own bad experience. Probably.
You will.
Write a passage. Do you have any books or podcasts or YouTube channels, whatever you want to recommend for the writers out there who would like to learn?
When I search for advice, I only search through Pinterest or through Google. So there are a few blogs that I frequent, but I couldn't for the life of me tell you.
On Pinterest, though, like that's, I think, a valuable advice in itself, because I've never heard anybody telling me that they're searching for writing advice or whatever on Pinterest. It would never come to me, for example.
Oh, really? So I mean,
I'm a very bad Pinterest user. I don't use it often, but so I don't know of all of its capabilities, basically.
Love Pinterest. I think on the Rhea Fox account, I have like advice for writers, and there's lots of this. I think one of my pin boards is called Better Words for Writers. So where like 50 synonyms for said or for going or whatever. So I kind of collect that. And I love writing prompts. I really love that. I actually don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I love being on podcasts. I really love it. But I don't listen to a lot. What I do love is my friend Helen's YouTube channel. She has like an author tube account. I really love that. It's Riek Pedersen Writes, the same as her Instagram handle, and I really love that. I love watching it, and I love that she shares her struggles and her wins. It's just, like day in the life of a full-time writer, and I really love watching that. And also YouTube, like YouTube and Pinterest, they are like universities at our fingertips, so that's where I generally look for advice.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't listening to podcasts before. I started, I think, at the same time that I started writing. So I started writing a year and a half ago. So that's when I started like, what can I do with my free time on the commute or something that could be useful? And then I was like, there are podcasts that I can listen to and they will help me. So that's how, and lots of YouTube channels as well. So yeah, but Pinterest is something new. I'm gonna look that up because I haven't really explored Pinterest at all. I had to do a Pinterest board for my wedding, and it was like a chore for me. Like I couldn't really. Why do I have to search through all these pictures? I don't know what I like.
I have a huge account for my German stuff, and I just put all the Rhea Fox stuff on a different. So I think it's just pinterest.com/RheaFoxAuthor. I think should be my Pinterest. And I have these boards, so maybe there is something good on there for you.
I will check that out. And actually, I think I was in some seminar a while ago, and there was a whole course about marketing on Pinterest. And it was saying that Pinterest is so good for marketing because it's the content there is evergreen, so you can always find it whenever it was created. So it's super useful for authors to also advertise there. So I was interested back then to look into it because that sounds evergreen content is always a good thing.
Yeah, so I haven't done a lot of it for my author account because I've just, separated it because they don't fit together. Like I had it all in one account and it doesn't fit together. But I still market my blogs because the blog posts, they just live there, and then people,
You're still writing
occasionally
them, the blog posts?
No.
I mean, as if you have the time.
Yeah. And I thought I should, but I don't want to. I retired that. And I feel like I would probably have a few. So my personal finance blog is called The Savings Vixen. So fox, female fox. It was always the thing because I love foxes. And I feel like quite a few topics still apply to me now because I wrote a lot about like online marketing and everything, and building a business online and how to set that up. And one of my most successful blog posts was like how I made X amount of money with my books. And I feel like a lot of that could also be part of a YouTube channel, but I don't want to write that anymore. If I have time to write, then I want to write about my brain babes because that is also more profitable for me.
Yes.
So every book makes me more money. So that is where I focus. It's funny when you see the stats on my Kindle account, KDP, and it's like this, and then the Rhea Fox era, and it goes.
You've been on KDP for a while, so you can really see the difference.
Since I think 16th July 2016 is when I started my account.
Wow!
So that was when I opened the account, and then I published my first book. So yeah, might be the release date of my first book. I don't know.
Amazing. Wanted to thank you for coming into the podcast, and I think we need another episode just marketing and branding related because I really have a lot of questions, and I can't wait to talk to you again, but thank you so much for this session. All right, so before we wrap, I just wanted to ask you, how can my listeners find you?
So the easiest way is on Instagram. It's just at Rhea Fox Author. I also have a Patreon where I hang out a lot. It's the same handle, it's just patreon.com/Rhea Fox Author. And my website is rarefox.com. And also, I always encourage people to follow me on Amazon, because you get these handy emails when an author releases something new when you follow them, which I always love because I can never keep up. So yeah, drop in, say hi, slide into my DMs, be unhinged with me. Oh, and I have a Threads now. I always said I wasn't going to be on Threads, but now I am.
I'm still holding on, but yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to do that eventually as well.
I was so good for so long, and then I cracked.
Mhm.
It was, yeah, but
Happens
it's
to the best of
fun.
us. Okay.
It's fun because it's quiet. You don't have any sound, you don't have any video. Like it's
Mhm.
really, it's not that overwhelming the way Instagram can be with all the movement and everything. And I really like that. And also these threads that you can have and that you can kind of reach out to people. So I started this. What was the last sentence you wrote in your work in progress? I'll start. And then I shared a sentence. And today I got that recommended in my little threads thingy on Instagram, and like by someone else. And I thought, oh, I started this. It was really fun. Kind of
Oh, yeah,
experimenting
that sounds like
with
fun.
it.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Thank you so much for coming, and have a good day.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
If you like what you hear so far, please consider subscribing and tune in for the next episode. If you have burning questions about writing you'd like to have answered, head to my Instagram page at kkalbabooks and leave me a message. Or use my email k.k.alba.books@gmail.com. If you'd like your favorite author to answer your question on my show, again, head to my Instagram or email me to let me know which author you'd like me to invite, and I'll try to get over my anxiety and do it. On the other hand, if you're an author who's published at least one book, traditional or indie, and you'd like to become a guest, well, you know what to do by now. Message me and let's get to know each other.